Good morning, Bridge City. I hope you guys are all having a great start to your day. I spoke to Marissa, who has given me a few minutes this morning to tell you a story from my last survey. So I wanted to take a few minutes and tell you about something that happened, an experience that I had out on this last survey that we went on. So we were in our third of 5 villages. We only had, I think, maybe 2 or 3 interviews left, and so our guide came to us and said, I have someone else that's willing to do an interview. Will one of you come with me? So I walked with our guide just a little ways, maybe like 50 feet from the place we were staying, 50 meters or so. And I noticed right away that the family was a little bit different. There were 2 little boys I noticed right away, I think maybe like 5 and 7. And they were playing together. They didn't have any pants on, which is pretty common in the village, but usually more for poorer families won't have bottoms on their children. So they didn't have any bottoms on, and then you go around the corner of the house and you can see the mom was sitting there working, husking corn, and there was 2 daughters that were helping her. I think the oldest one was maybe about 9 years old, and then there was also a little baby boy on the mom's lap who was sleeping. And the villages are dirty, meaning like there's no pavement or anything, so you walk through dirt everywhere you go, but there's a difference between having dirty clothes and having filthy clothes. In the village, you can recognize the difference if you've been in the village a few times, and I could definitely see the difference between these children and other children in the village. So I could recognize that they were a poorer family of the village. But I sat down with the lady, and did the interview. They had this little tiny kitten, and so the kitten sat on my lap while I did the interview, and after the interview we just, you usually sit there for a little while and chat. So I'm looking around the house. Well, we were sitting outside, so I'm looking around outside where we're sitting, and just the children's clothing was almost black from just dirt and lack of being washed. It was pretty chilly, and like I mentioned, they didn't have any bottoms on, which usually once it starts getting colder they'll find something to wear, but they didn't have that. The little baby that was sitting on the mom's lap had flies all over it, and it was just, it was sleeping, and the mom kept kind of wiping the flies away, but just a really, I guess, a hard situation to seeing this mom with her children and just not having really anything. So just a few minutes before we were leaving, it's proper here where we are for, if you have a guest of any kind, to provide some kind of food for them, or drink, like tea or something like that. So just before we left, one of the little girls brought 3 boiled eggs. In this culture, it would be really rude not to accept something that was given to you. So by them offering these eggs to us, we really needed to eat it to accept their generosity, and for them to be able to feel like they were generous to us and hospitable to us. And I've never really experienced it quite like that before, as far as knowing that they're giving food to us as a hospitable gift, but knowing that it means that their family may not have as much to eat that night. So my guide, just being from that village, or from nearby that village, he didn't seem to have a problem. He ate his egg and was fine. I did eat my egg, but I had a really hard time with it. The little boy, I think was maybe, one of the boys was about 4, and he just sat right next to me and just stared at me eating this hard-boiled egg, just with hunger. Like, you could just see that he was hungry, and he just would just die to eat the egg that I was eating. And I didn't really want the egg. I certainly didn't want to eat the egg in front of them. And yeah, so just one of those experiences that's really difficult. So once we had left, once we had said goodbye and left, I left one of the eggshells on the ground, at which the kitten that was on my lap was clearly starving as well. It scarfed up the little eggshell that I left on the ground. And so we walked back through the cornfield to get back to where we were staying. And I asked my guide, like, tonight when they go to eat, like, since they gave us those eggs, like, what will they do? Like, will that be food that they would have normally eaten? And here in this culture, usually indirect answers is more appropriate. So he said, yes, you know, they have a large family. There's 6 of them, 6 children in that family, and so it's hard to feed a family when you have 6 children. And yeah, she is married and has a husband. Her husband came home just right before I left, and you could tell he works really hard. He's a very skinny man. He had some kind of injury on his legs. His shins were caked over with blood, and yeah, some kind of injury, but it didn't seem to bother him, and he was just doing his work and she was doing hers, and they seemed overall pretty happy and content with life, but also less joyous than some of the other village houses that we had seen. So yeah, they actually live, the place that we were staying, the place about 50 meters or so from there, is a church. This family that I've just described is Buddhist, so they are not believers. Yeah, so afterwards when I got back to where we were resting, I just, the other girls on the trip with me could tell that something had happened, and I wasn't feeling very good about it. I wasn't, yeah, just that experience was really hard, but really good to see that and experience it. So so they could tell something was up, so I kind of shared with them what had happened, and just cried and prayed together. And yeah, I just really felt that I should share that with you guys, because the work that we're doing is really focused for that church to be able to reach out to others, and putting the scriptures in their language. There's an oral storying project going on right now, and this project that we went out on is going to help them know how to move forward in the future and continue that storying project, which makes it easier, because right now the church uses only the local language, like the national language, not the village language, and so a lot of the people in the village don't understand. So we're hoping that the work that we've done with our survey will help the storying project move forward and hopefully get word to these other families that just don't know who Jesus is and don't know his love and understand that. And yeah, when you're out there in the village and you just, you know, I was sitting out on the balcony of the church and just looked at the village and looked at that house, which I could see from where we were staying, and just a sense of partial hopelessness for people that haven't heard. Like, if you're living in such extreme poverty, what do you do with that if there's no hope or salvation? But then also a sense of joy and happiness, because I can also see the church and see the homes of the believers scattered all across the hills. There's not very many of them, but they're there and they're spreading, and they are a source of joy and happiness for everyone around them. So yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you guys this morning. And it's a hard experience and not necessarily a happy one, but it's also it just shows what we're doing and what you're a part of. So I just wanted to make sure that you know that. So thank you, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I can't wait to come back and worship with you guys.